Hi guys, this is Karan here from Headphone Zone, and today we'll be talking about Cayin's latest release, the RU7. So for those of you who don't know about Cayin is a brand based out of China, and they're famous for making tube amplifiers like the Cayin HA3A. Now Cayin is also one of those brands that pushes innovation in their products, and they embed technologies that are found in much bigger devices like the R2R resistor ladder technology that they embedded in the RU6. And now with the RU7, they pushed the boundary even further and introduced a 1-bit discrete R2R DAC. So how does the RU7 sound? How does it compare to the RU6? We'll talk about all of this in this video. So let's get started. Alright, so now before we move on to the technical aspects and how the RU7 sounds, let's talk a little bit about the unboxing experience. Now the RU7 stays true to that Cayin packaging, and it's supplied with this little box. Now within the box you get the unit, the RU7 itself, and it's bundled with a C to C cable. You also get a C to A type adapter to connect to your laptops or computers. You get a nice green case that you see out here, and along with this you get magnets so that if you want to use those magnets on your phone and stick the RU7 onto it, you can do that. And I think that's a great addition. It helps you get started right out of the box. Alright guys, so let's talk about the build quality of the RU7. Now RU7 follows the same design language as the RU6. It's got that CNC machined chassis. The form factor is similar to the RU6, maybe a little smaller than the RU6. The buttons are now a little bit easier to press. There is a little bit of push to the buttons, and I personally feel that they maintain the quality of build just like the RU6. Alright, so moving on to the technical aspects of the RU7. Now with the RU7, or the introduction of the RU7, the team at Cayin have upgraded the internals literally in every aspect from the RU6. The RU6 featured 96 resistor in a array, which was in a 2-channel design. Now with the RU7, they've upgraded this and they're using 128 resistors, and these are laid in a 4-channel fully balanced design. Now what this fully balanced design helps is it preserves the dynamics in the music, and it presents a lot more clarity. And essentially this fully balanced design is an upgrade from the RU6 in every aspect. So now another aspect that's changed from the RU6 in terms of technicality for the RU7 is that this is a discrete 1-bit R2R DAC as opposed to the 24-bit R2R DAC that the RU6 was. So what a 1-bit DAC essentially does is takes your digital signal and it outputs them as DSD format. Now essentially when this happens, you'll hear more depth in your music. The microdynamics are presented much more better. The overall clarity is improved, and I think taking something that was implemented in big devices like audio players or CD players that read the SACDs and implementing that onto a device this small, I think is just phenomenal. Alright, so moving on, let's talk a little bit about the output power of the RU7. Now, the output power on the RU7 has considerably increased from the RU6. The single-ended output on this outputs around 160 milliwatts of power at 32 ohms, and the balanced output, the 4.4 mm, is at around 400 milliwatts at 32 ohms. Now, this increase in power is something that you're going to feel when you plug in your IEM. Your IEMs just come to life, even your headphones if you're pairing one with the RU7, and essentially there is more detail, and you really don't need to push the device too hard to get that right sound. So essentially what this additional power provides you is with a full-bodied music listening experience with an IEM or headphone that you're going to pair with the RU7. Now another aspect that I want to talk about in the RU7 is the implementation of the parallel-driven dual headphone amplifiers. Now this is basically, as I mentioned, the architecture is laid out in a 4-channel configuration, and the implementation of this dual amplifiers is what leads to that additional power from the RU6. Alright guys, so let's talk about the most important thing, and that is how does the RU7 sound. Now with the implementation of this 1-bit architecture and the additional resistors and the dual phone amplifiers, what the RU7 now brings to the table is a lot more technical capability. The audio is presented with a lot of detail, the depth, the layering in the music is presented well, the width, the sound stage is opened up from the RU7, and essentially, if I were to describe the audio output in a single word, it is close to neutral or transparent. Now, what I personally feel, and something that I really appreciate in the RU7 is that what it offers is best of both worlds. The output feels like a really high-end Delta Sigma DAX output, but it uses that R2R ladder architecture. So I think this is a fairly unique DAC and amp, and I think Cayin has done a great job with the RU7 in every aspect when it comes to the audio output. Alright, so now having spoken about the technical aspects, the build quality and the sound, is the RU7 a worthy upgrade to the RU6? If you personally ask me, I would say any time of the year. The RU7 builds upon the RU6 architecture and it elevates it to the next level. The audio output power, the audio quality presented is much better than the RU6. Now, having said that, I know a lot of people are gonna love or appreciate that warm sound of the RU6, but what the RU7 presents is something very different. It takes inspiration from the RU6 and maintains that musicality in the audio presentation, but with a lot more clarity, a lot more detail and attention to microdynamics and micro details. I personally feel that this is something very different to the RU6 and definitely worth an upgrade. Alright guys, so what are my final thoughts on the Cayin RU7? Like I mentioned earlier, it is a phenomenal DAC and amp at this form factor. The output provided by this RU7 is phenomenal. It's accurate. The level of details, the width, the sound stage, everything has improved from the RU6. The output power has improved, and I feel this is a great device to really experience that discrete 1-bit R2R sound. Now, having said all of this, there are a couple of things that I feel that Cayin could have resolved from the RU6 that still exist in the RU7. Now, this was a persistent issue in the RU6 that when you change the volume, it would skip for a second after certain steps, around 10 or 12 steps, and that problem still exists in the RU7. Now, this is something that I'm willing to overlook, and I think a lot of people will, but this is something that I feel Cayin could have done a better job. Another thing that I forgot to mention in the technical aspects is now in the menu you get an option to select all to DSD in DSD64, DSD128 and DSD254, and I personally feel I've always used it at the DSD254 setting, which is the highest setting, and that really makes a difference. Now, having said all of this, my conclusion is this is a phenomenal DAC and amp, and I think the team at Cayin has done a great job. Alright guys, so that was my take on the Cayin RU7. Now, if you'd like to try the RU7 for yourself, I invite you to our experience studio here in Mumbai. And if you're not based out of Mumbai, you can catch us at a Headphone Connect event happening at a city near you. So that was it for today. I'll see you guys in the next one.